l'idée de se rencontrer ici, ce meeting, ce temps, c'est l'idée d'essayer de créer une dynamique ou de poursuivre la dynamique qui a été initiée par Mathias et Maria. The idea of this meeting is to follow the works that Mathias and Maria done in Heidelberg and the idea of a research, a systemic in the field of systemic approach. It's our idea. So they will present their works and what they done, but we will try in the second time to work with you what you hope, in what kind of field you may be engaged to do something, because we have 2 times in the future in Naples next year and maybe in Toulouse in 2020 to follow concretely something on research. Okay, but we need your engagement to help us to make something. Okay. Donc en français, hein, l'idée c'est que voilà, ce temps de travail, c'est aussi un temps de travail prospectif qui a 2 dates, c'est-à-dire 2019 à Naples et 2020 possiblement ici à Toulouse, pour mener des travaux ou des projets de recherche concrets, et nous avons besoin de votre engagement sur l'une ou l'autre des thématiques ou des champs de recherche sur lesquels vous souhaiteriez nous aider, ou voire même être initiateur et développeur des recherches, et qu'à ce moment-là, EFTA et son réseau de cliniciens puissent venir vous aider dans les recherches que vous souhaiterez mener ou accompagner. Maintenant, j'ai le plaisir donc de laisser la parole, c'est Maria, c'est Mathias, à Maria. On ne présente pas Maria Borcsa, tout le monde la connaît. We didn't present Maria, everybody knows who is Maria, the beautiful ex-president, past president of EFTA, l'organisatrice de la conférence d'Athènes. She was in presidence when she organized the next conference 2 years ago in Athens. Last 2 years past. Okay. And professeur of psychologie in Nordhausen.
C'est vrai.
Oui.
Okay. Merci Thierry. Bonjour à tous. Alors c'est vraiment pas facile de changer les langues entre allemand, anglais et français. Alors on a préparé les slides. Les slides sont en français. Alors on peut suivre les slides. Je crois que Mathias is going to speak in English.
I have the same slides in English.
Okay, so he's looking at the slides in English, and so it's going to be a mixture. Okay, and what I like about this mixture is that maybe it's one of the first times, I don't know, but usually when we speak about research, it is in English. It's an Anglo-American tradition, at least where we in Germany are located. Can you translate this?
Alors, Mathias aura ses slides en français, mais il va les dire en anglais, et sur son ordinateur, elles seront traduites en anglais. Mais on pense que vous allez pouvoir suivre à partir des slides en français ce qu'il va dire en anglais, parce que la tradition de la recherche veut que ce soit en langue anglo-saxonne. Et donc on va essayer de faire un mix des 3 langues pour essayer que tout le monde suive le propos.
Et j'aime bien le mix parce que c'est une nouveauté de mon point de vue. Et si on essaie de faire une conférence de la recherche en France, il doit être une mixture. Voilà. Il y a une tradition, there is a tradition of research conferences il y a une tradition des conférences de la recherche systémique en Allemagne. C'était initié par Jochen Schweitzer et plus tard de Matthias Ochs. Et Mathias va parler de cette tradition. C'est une, je peux dire, c'est une tradition terminée parce que c'était la dernière fois. L'année dernière qu'ils ont préparé cette conférence. Alors c'est aussi il faut une vision pour la prochaine conférence de la recherche. Et c'est surtout pourquoi nous sommes ici et peut-être aussi que vous êtes ici. Et maintenant,
Non, j'ai juste une chose à vous dire parce que Maria m'a demandé de préciser que parmi vous, oui, il y a des gens très différents. Here in the assembly you are different because there's le board d'EFTA est présent, the members of the board of EFTA are here, mais il y a aussi des cliniciens toulousains ou d'autres régions qu'on ne connaît pas. Et il y a des gens comme moi qui sont intéressés par la recherche et en général. Donc il y a des normaux et des anormaux, mais on ne sait pas qui est qui. Hein.
Et les autres. Ok, alors on va commencer avec la tradition de Heidelberg et plus tard je vais raconter un peu avec de la collaboration avec EFTA et la recherche que nous avons poursuivi en collaboration avec EFTA. Ok, yes, it's your turn.
Okay. Yes, welcome. Unfortunately, as Thierry and Maria talked about, I'm not capable of speaking French. I had it 1 year in school, but I was that bad that I changed to Latin, so I can write Latin. But so, unfortunately. Yeah, so I have to speak a little bit English. And yeah, that's nice. Maria and a colleague of Maria was so nice to translate the slides in France. Thank you very much. That was a very good cooperation. And yeah, I just want to make some share with you some ideas about systemic research and how it came that in Heidelberg we started to do a systemic research conference, and for that I just want to remind you of the early research activities in the systemic field. I want to give you some reasons for the decline of research activities in the systemic field from our perspective, from our German perspective. Maybe it fits to your experiences in your countries or not. I would be happy to discuss this. And also try to make clear what are the motivations for us for doing, for starting the Heidelberg Research Conference, and the motivations for the systemic field for going again into research more in the 90s. In the midst of the 19th, and then we want to present 2 outcomes of the Heidelberg Research Conference. One outcome is a German textbook for systemic research. Another outcome is international, an English textbook. It's not a textbook, but it's an editor book on the research conference, on the last Heidelberg Research Conference that Maria, Jochen and me, we are doing together at the moment, and it will be published in spring 2019. And we are doing this because the contributions to those books give a good impression of the diversity and plurality of research in the systemic field, because this is a topic the main topic of our what we want to talk about. And at last we had also some statements, some ideas that we want to present and discuss you. So we don't be afraid. We don't talk too long or too much. We want more to discuss with you ideas on systemic research and not so much to just monologize here. Okay, Maria?
No, go ahead.
Should I go ahead?
Yes.
Everyone's understanding me? Also, yeah. If the people that only understand French maybe need some translation, but it's there, huh?
Yeah.
It's nice. Yeah. So where are you?
This
you
is
are
the
there.
next slide.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. As I mentioned, I just want to remind you about, and I think every one of you, the most of you will know this. Of course, there had been research in the systemic field in the 50s, in the 60s of last century. You all know the research of the Palo Alto group of Bowen, Wine, and Sterling in the US National Institute of Mental Health, and of course the famous research Salvatore Minuchin done with the family experiments. In German language countries in the late and early 1980s, especially in the Heidelberg University Department of Basic Psychoanalytic Research and Family Therapy, they did a lot of systemic research or research of systemic therapies. That's more correct. We researched the group researched systemic therapy there for patients with cancer, psychosis, and eating disorders. And also there were research on couple therapy. I think most of you know also in Zurich, Jörg Willi and colleagues. In Germany there was also a little bit research in Göttingen, the multi-generational family therapy, and in the 1990s started the so-called Autumn Academy, an annual or biannual meeting dedicated to the study of self-organization processes in psychology and social science. Yeah, and then there came a decline of research activities, at least in Germany, but maybe also in your countries, in the mid-90s to the mid-80s to the mid-1990s. And Jochen and me, we think there are maybe three reasons for that decline. One is that radical constructivism or second-order cybernetics became prominent in that time, and you all know that one aspect of this epistemology is that it is questionable what really happened in families and family therapy if the construction of reality solely relied on the perspective of an observer. If that is that way, it seemed that it no longer makes sense to search for an objective understanding of social realities. So people, especially systemic practitioner, gets confused about, well, if we are radical constructionists, why we do empirical research, because everyone has his own truth, so it doesn't make sense any longer, something like that. Yeah, of course this is stupid. Also some famous, like Auerswald, he calls this Epistobabel, yeah, to make clear this is just stupid. It's, of course we can do research also when we are radical constructionists in some ways. Well, another reason for the decline of research is that the systemic approach as a set of very practical psychosocial attitudes and tools had become quite popular and fascinating, especially among practitioners. That generated a rapidly growing training market, yeah? Mostly outside university contexts and private institutes. So there were private training institutes that make a lot of money by training practitioners. And it worked without research. The trainings were full, and they can make a lot of money, and they didn't need any empirical evidence for what they are doing. So the experienced evidence of systemic practice work seemed so strong that no need was felt for additional scientific evidence. Yeah? the experienced evidence of the practice was so strong that we said, well, it worked, everyone liked it, and we see in our practice that systemic tools are very helpful, so we don't need any scientific evidence. Another reason is that, as I already mentioned, systemic practice and training flourished mainly outside universities. This situation had negative implications for systemic research. There were only very few university professorships with an explicit systemic orientation. In German-speaking countries, maybe in your countries it is another way. And so the possibilities of running research projects, graduate colleagues, or doing bachelor, master theses, PhDs, or habilitations with a clear systemic stance were very limited. Thus in turn had adverse effects on supporting systemic junior researchers. Yeah? Because all of systemic training and systemic activities happen mostly outside. I'm interested if it's in France the same way, but in Germany it was that way. Yeah.
It was the same in France.
It was the same.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, but then I'm at the next. Then there came a time of motivation again for doing research, and this motivation changed in the midst of the 1990s. One reason for it was, of course, the so-called neoliberal economics that reached health and social services sector. Quality, cost management became topic. Aesthetic fascination counted less. Figures and statistics demonstrating quality started to count more. In the medical field, of course, you know, the evidence-based medicine called for facts, figures on the efficiency and effectiveness of what providers are doing. And psychotherapy was about to become regulated, I think, in a lot of European countries, not only in Germany. In Germany, the psychotherapy regulation law was expected to become effective in 1999, and it was expected to leave systemic therapy outside the domains of acknowledged treatments. At German language universities, those psychiatric pioneers that had established family therapy and social psychiatry research in the late 60s and 70s were retired. So in the university context, less and less systemic people were researching or teaching. So the same is happening at the moment in our Heidelberg University department with Jochen Schweitzer, who retired, and then this place is always running out. Yeah. Okay. Yes, I am. Okay. Well, now I will continue a little bit. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. Just now, I want to tell you about the three main goals or perspectives that we had with our Heidelberg research conferences. The first was to represent systemic research approaches on psychotherapy and counseling, including coaching, supervision, and team development in the fields of medicine, education, social work, and organization management. Systems theory, dynamical and sociological systems theory, and/or constructivism, especially social constructionism, had inspired these practices. They had spread into all these fields of application, and we wanted to support that dissemination of the systemic approach by providing a regular platform for further scientific professionalization via research and ongoing theoretical discourses. Yeah? And okay. This is the distribution of the professionals that are members in the German Systemic Association. And one of them is the biggest, yes. We have two, but I think it's the same as the other one. It's just we don't want to make these. And as you see here, most of the professionals in the German Systemic Associations are social workers. And I think it's the same in other nations. We have a lot of social workers. Systemic people are the profession where they come from is often social work, not so much medicine, not so much psychology. So, and this is important to take. Also, you see, just this are the psychologists, and this here are the medical doctors, not so much. And the social, there is a completely other tradition of research in the field of social work, for instance, as in the field of psychology and medicine. And this you have to take into account when you try to talk about research with systemic people who often came from universities of applied sciences with a social work or less educational background. Yeah.
Could you translate please the other profession?
What?
Could you translate please the other professions?
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah,
I don't.
share,
Could you do?
Yes,
Maybe?
I can try.
Thank you.
Nurses, teachers,
These are teachers.
early education.
Where is that?
Oh.
Was ist
Crossover.
Maria, was heißt Erzieher auf Englisch? Was heißt Erzieher auf Englisch? Okay. This is educator.
Okay. Very good.
Heilpädagogen, Pedagogues.
Pedagogue,
These are nurses,
nurses,
teachers, theologians.
theologists,
Théologiste.
Okay.
licensed,
Everything else.
everything else.
Yeah. Okay. Not classified.
MA,
And I think it will be, the picture would be maybe comparable in other countries. In that distribution, more or less, huh?
now in Italy we have the psychotherapy is only
Yes.
for psychologists or medical doctors.
It differs. It
But
differs quite.
we have a lot in mediation, a lot of social workers and counseling.
Yeah. But I think one of the sources of the diversity of research in the systemic field is also that the professionals are very diverse where they come from. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Another goal with the Heidelberg Systemic Research Conference was we wanted to help linking practice with research, which became the continuous subtitle of the conference. Therefore, we encourage practitioners to bring to the conferences their research-related ideas, interests, projects, questions, impulses, and to do real practitioner research. Once there, we wanted to connect them to senior and junior researchers. And this is what we always did. We brought together some quite famous researchers, international, with PhD students, all in the same conference. So to really make this that broad, yeah. And myself, I'm proud. In that way that I encouraged 2 practitioners to do a PhD out of the Heidelberg Research Conference, and they did a practitioner research. I think, of course, a lot of other people also did that, but it was a lot of work for them. But I think these were impulses that were important, for instance. Yeah. And of course, the third goal was we wanted to stimulate the discourse on what exactly differentiates systemic from non-systemic research and what theories and research methods are more or less appropriately called systemic. So the question, are there systemic research methods or not, and what is systemic research and what is not systemic research, because it only makes sense to talk about systemic research when you can classify also the field of non-systemic research. Yeah. Yes, and as I already mentioned in the beginning, one of the outcomes of the Heidelberg Research Conference was a German handbook for systemic research that Jochen Schweitzer and me were edited. And I show it because it represents the diversity and plurality of the field, and I think in a quite good way. And I just want to give you some examples that you see. For instance, we had contributions of social work, of course, of organizational development, of pedagogics for adults, of psychotherapy, psychology, sociology, and we had qualitative research methods like phenomenology, grounded theory, qualitative organizational analysis, and so on, and also case-constructive family research, and also, of course, quantitative methods like time series analysis, family interaction research, of course, questionnaire research, and of course, score research of Peter Stratton. And yeah, and then we also did some considerations, Jochen and me, we write some contributions about how to do a systemic research project, what you should consider if you are researching in a systemic way, and what we think what systemic research is. And yeah, and then we also, Maria, do you want to continue?
Yes, if you finished at
Yes.
this point?
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe here comes EFTA in, because 4 years ago you started to become international, and it should be said that before the main, at least as you said, the PhD students, etc., they were from Germany, of course, and when I was president of EFTA, Matthias asked me if we could create a collaboration on this research conference, and so we used the resources from EFTA and invited colleagues from Europe, and I think this was also the first cooperation which was continued last time, last year. I come back to that. First of all, I would like to mention that, or maybe this way is better, that if you cooperate with an association, of course you have a huge amount of colleagues who are in this association, and you can use this network for research, of course. Tu peux traduire?
Oui, donc l'idée de la collaboration avec une association européenne de thérapie familiale, c'est que si vous faites de la recherche, ben vous avez une énorme base de données possible avec tous les collègues qui font du travail clinique et qui peuvent donc alimenter la recherche.
And the first research output, I would say, which is related to EFTA, is this book. I edited it with Peter Robert together, and it was presented also on the first International Heidelberg Conference, the research, which is about one couple therapy case of 4 sessions. It's a finished couple therapy, and it is analyzed with different qualitative methods. So each author or author groups analyzed the same transcripts with a different method. And of course this is really special, because you can follow the couple therapy and look from different perspectives.
Alors, la première idée qui a fait l'objet de ce livre, c'est une thérapie de couple en 4 séances qui a été retranscrite et qui a été analysée avec différents points de vue et de différents topics. Et donc on peut suivre la thérapie avec l'analyse qui a été réalisée par les différentes équipes.
Différentes équipes de la recherche.
De chercheurs, oui, différentes équipes de chercheurs.
Ok, et j'ai... Tu veux? Et quand j'ai...
It's a wonderful book. I did a review of it, and you learn a lot about different qualitative research approaches.
Thank you.
Very good. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so and I created together with Peter Stratton a book series for EFTA, and I mention it here because it's we are now writing, Mathias already mentioned, together with Jochen Schweitzer. We are editing this book, and it is the, I will skip this one just for a second. We are going to edit this book as a result from the last Heidelberg conference. So it's going to be I will show you some examples.
Il est en bas, il est présenté en bas.
Non, c'est pas encore présenté parce que...
c'est l'autre qui est présenté, voilà. Celui-là qui est annoncé.
Ça, c'est le contenu. This is the content, so it has 3 parts. And because it's too long to present you all the contents, just some ideas. Some examples about what this book is going to be about, and it is also it is also mirroring the diversity of research you can find in the systemic field. So it's from you see about resilience, about family secrets. Here it's the combination between emotion-focused therapy and systemic thinking. There's about neurobiology as well. So a lot of different aspects are covered here, and they are all coming from presentations in the conference. So this is we could say a result coming out from this conference. Maybe just
oui. En fait, voilà, donc il y a plein de thématiques différentes qui sont approchées dans cet ouvrage et qui reprend la dernière conférence d'Heidelberg et qui présente tous ses travaux. Voilà, et c'est difficile de présenter toutes les thématiques, mais voilà, il y a vraiment dans tous les champs.
Yeah, okay. At the moment there is, and maybe we go now to the concrete steps, what to do with all this, because this is something, this gives you an overview where we are now, but what are we going to do next, or where is this whole ship moving to? And this research, very concrete research, and you find the questionnaire in your booklet, comes out from a symposium at the Athens conference, at the last EFTA conference in Athens, where we gave a symposium about working with ICTs, working with information and communication technologies. And Valeria Pomini and myself, we decided to create a questionnaire because there is actually, at the moment, no overview how systemic or family therapists or systemic therapists use ICTs as professionals. There are some from the States, but there is nothing from Europe.
Alors, au moment de la conférence d'Athènes, nous nous sommes intéressés sur les thérapies utilisant les nouveaux objets de communication, les nouveaux moyens de communication et comment les professionnels de la santé utilisent ces moyens de communication, voire aussi les thérapies par Internet. C'était ces questions-là. Donc nous avons décidé de créer, Maria a créé un questionnaire, celui que vous trouvez dans vos pochettes et que vous êtes priés de remplir et de laisser dans le carton en bas au bureau EFTA, parce que voilà, là on est dans la recherche concrète que l'on mène, parce que s'il y a eu des choses qui ont été faites en USA, il n'y a rien de fait en Europe sur ces thématiques-là.
Mm-hmm. And this is also where the EFTA Research Committee is helpful, because the association has a research committee. And for example, the survey platform is hosted by Monica White, who is here, and the translation was done by Fabienne Dardenne. Alors, vous avez la traduction française et on a fait une traduction en italien. Voilà, ce sont 3 langues maintenant. Bien. I will tell you. This is something I'm organizing a research conference this year on qualitative research on mental health in September in Berlin. And it's a very focused conference, because it's focused on the topic and it's focused on the method. And I would just, if I have the time, to show you, because what is really special that the special rapporteur from the United Nations, he wrote a text in for the United Nations that it's not enough anymore to have the only mainstream methods, the quantitative mainstream methods, to deal with mental health issues. It's reducing the phenomenon into in a certain direction.
Alors, j'organise au mois de septembre une conférence à Berlin, les slides vous ont présenté la conférence, mais qui est une conférence qui est sur une focale très précise et très limitée sur effectivement les méthodes quantitatives de recherche en santé mentale. Nous accueillons des États-Unis, c'est ça?
Non, c'est United Nations.
De United Nations. Des États-Unis. Oui, des Nations Unies. Oui,
ah, voilà.
Nations Unies. Le professeur Denus Puras qui disait, c'est ça si j'ai bien compris, qu'il n'y avait pas assez de données.
Peut-être je peux. Qui dit qu'il faut avoir un autre sens de rechercher
pour la méthode quantitative en santé mentale. Voilà, un autre sens.
Ok. Bien. Yes, and this is, Matthias, again, your some ideas from your perspective, what you did until now and what is not achieved yet, and from there we can try to make it more concrete.
Yeah. Okay. When I reflected with Jochen Schweitzer about our systemic research conferences, we also reflected about what we did not reach, what we thought we should have reached. And one thing is that actually it has remained open whether there are genuinely systemic research methods that can be clearly differentiated from non-systemic methods. We didn't find such methods. It's not possible. It's more the theoretical frame or other aspects that are the epistemological background of research that makes research systemic. It's not that there are systemic methods. The conference has primarily become a psychotherapy conference. The involvement of organizational researchers remained much weaker. The involvement of social work and education researchers remained very weak. So we started with the idea to bring together research from the different fields of application of the systemic approach, but this we didn't really reach quite good. Most of the presenters came more or less out of the field of psychotherapy. So within the psychotherapy communities of various countries, it is generally recognized today that systemic therapy and consultation have a strong theoretical and empirical base. However, its representation in the big research active universities and the big research institutions is still weak as of now. This may, and we hope will change during the next 10 years. There is a much brighter picture at the universities of applied sciences, especially in Germany, where systemic thinking seems well established today, but not at this big excellent
universities. Maybe it's in your countries another way, but in Germany it is that way. Yeah? Okay, that's it.
Yes, and now when we started, yes, when we prepared this presentation, we said we want to have some standpoints we want to show to you, or tell to you and discuss with you. And so we have 5. Actually, we have 4 and the Joker is coming from you. And would you like to shall I do? Okay.
Okay. Because I didn't write it on my presentation.
True. Okay. Alors, c'est français. Dans chaque programme de la formation continue, de la formation continue systémique devrait être un module de la recherche. Alors, ça, c'est pour discuter. Quand on a préparé la présentation, on a dit qu'il faut 5 idées ou points de vue on partage et pour discuter avec vous. Et voilà, et ça c'est une point de vue que même dans les instituts privés, il doit être un module de la recherche. 2. Système de réaction des patients, par exemple avec SCORE, devrait devenir standard de la pratique systémique. Numéro 3. Pour l'académisation et la professionnalisation des approches systémiques, ont besoin de recherche. Alors, c'est plutôt une idée sur l'institutionnalisation, voilà. Et, last but not least, recherche systémique des pratiqueurs permet une autre forme d'optimisation de la pratique comme garantie de qualité. C'est quelque chose de différent comme supervision ou intervision ou documentation, voilà. Can you translate this in English?
Oh! So, for each program of training, it maybe exist a module of research. It will be something which will be indispensable.
Yes.
Okay, but it's the 5 points are to discuss that with you.
Yes,
Okay. Le système de le système de réaction d'action, the patient feeling or the patient feedback maybe have to be approached maybe with SCORE or other scale like the scale of wellness, etc. Alors for making systemic more academic or recognized in the field of university academics, les approches systemic needs research on their practice. Et la recherche systémique et alors the research in systemic field and et pas les pratiquants, and the therapists doivent pouvoir, they have to traduce their practical in a way of research, so it's make quality, a guarantee of quality, and they have to imagine how doing this, but it's not supervision, it's not intervention, it's not documentation, it's to make a scale who analyze their practice, and the finish is Joker.
Okay, maybe, I'm sorry if I can say something to the 4th, because it's our idea is that practitioner research is a different way of quality insurance, and behind, or which transcends documentation, supervision, and intervision. Okay, so what do you think about all
Yes,
that?
you have to listen now very long to us, and it's boring, I know. But maybe we are very interested now in your ideas on everything what we said and on the statements. Everything.
Would you like to?
Okay.
Je pense que
We have a microphone, maybe that we can give us.
No, it's not a microphone. It's
c'est seulement pour dire que dans nos instituts, ça s'appelle ISCRA, nous avons un module de recherche. Nous faisons de la recherche il y a beaucoup de ans, mais cette année nous avons un module spécifique avec des enseignants et tous les élèves vont faire 90 heures de recherche. Et ils vont trouver une famille et ils vont intervister une famille pour essayer une manualisation. Et c'est la première fois que nous faisons. Je pense qu'avoir mis le module de recherche, c'est vraiment très important. Et je pense que le joker could be the manualization. Comment dire?
You are doing it already. Super.
Yes. Maybe you have to say it in English.
No,
Can you say it in English?
Because the French was not so good.
No, the French is good, but there are people who don't understand French.
In English it's a little bit better.
You can say it. You are loud enough.
Yeah, I'm loud enough. At our institute, this ISCRA Institute, we are doing researches a lot of years, but this year, for the first time, we created a module of 90 hours in which there are specific teachers, and each student is asked to find a couple and doing a special kind of intervention with this family. And this is then we use the score, and during the manualization, during the therapy, we use 5 different tools, and we give 3 tasks at home, and each student does it with this couple. They work for 90 hours, and there is 5 lessons in which the students are taught this method, and then other 5 meetings in which they are supervised to see what they did with the couple they found. So and I said also that for me the joker should be the manualization, because a kind of creative manualization, not just doing the same things, because I think that the new way to do research in systemic using systemic approach is basing our intervention on processes and not on procedures. So if we look for data that are not just to measure this on that, but if you go to measure the trigenerationality of the triadic issues, or you look for specific data, so our intervention should be a kind of manualization that is not trivial manualization, but it should be also creative manualization. That's my opinion.
Thank you.
And we are also working on this we spoke a lot in Italy at CIP conference. We spoke about this topic for 2 years, and now we are also working on this kind of manualization for the next year.
Okay, there were others? Yes, please.
I have a question. The 2 books you mentioned, the one you did and the one you did with your colleagues, they're both in English for the moment. They don't exist in French.
No.
Well, the German book
German.
only is in German, and the other ones that we are doing together will be in English only. So there wasn't a translation in French. Not until now.
Not yet.
That could be something interesting, the idea of
Maybe, yeah. I think they are quite good books, both. They're really good.
I think your presentation was very good. I agree with the 5 questions that you posed us for discussion. And I would like to say something about the first and maybe the last one. I think that a module about research is important because people have to know how to do research, to understand research, and I think that's important. Even if it's not too much, a little bit should be done in the training programs about research. And also I think that one problem that we are having, I don't know if it's the joker for me, the problem is that we are always trying to do what other models are doing, and we don't want that. I think that we have to think if we want to get in the competition of evidence-based therapy, the same way that other models are doing that. Because I think that we need several methodologies to capture the complexity of the systemic intervention, and I think that's the problem. I think that, for example, to use the score or the faces or other instruments, it's okay, but it's not enough, because we know that families and the way they work are much more complex. And even, for example, if they don't change in a certain amount of time, well, while they are doing therapy, they can change after, and the therapy may also have been effective. But we are not capturing the complexity of all the processes that are ongoing in systemic interventions. I think that's a real problem, and we have to think about several methodologies that may cross and give us the complexity, because if we are going to compete with other models, we don't have a chance.
Of course we are as good as the others.
Alors,
But I know what you mean.
Yes.
Yeah.
oui, pour traduire peut-être pour tout le monde a compris ce qu'a dit Johanna. Alors, l'idée que défend Johanna, c'est qu'effectivement, est-ce que l'approche systémique et l'idée systémique a à se mettre en compétition avec les autres modèles qui tentent par l'evidence-based medicine, enfin par l'evidence-based approach, de prouver l'efficacité ou au-delà de l'efficacité, la méthode de travail de l'approche systémique, parce qu'en fait, effectivement, comme on travaille dans quelque chose qui est complexe et qui est multifactoriel, c'est toujours très difficile de dire c'est ça qui fonctionne ou c'est ce processus où il faudrait comme ci ou comme ça. Et donc ce que nous avons à faire en termes de joker, c'est peut-être d'être capable de penser autrement que les autres pour ne pas être en compétition avec eux dans cette approche de la recherche. Je rajouterai qu'effectivement la recherche telle qu'elle est aujourd'hui, elle ne peut répondre qu'aux causalités linéaires. The research today just is with a linear approach. So, and the tools are only one to measure. Yeah. Systemic is circular phenomenon. So it's very complicated to say it's this point in the circularity who makes the difference. But we have to think tools who approach circular logic.
If I may add before I give the word to Monica, it depends on your research question.
Yeah.
You could even have a causal research question in a systemic context. So you can use I mean, this is something I agree in a certain way, but as Matthias said, we, or at least in these years, nothing came up from somewhere, I don't know, which made systemic research systemic. I mean, we are in a certain tradition, and there are lots of models especially in qualitative methods, you have lots of what you can use. Okay, Monica.
Well, please let me add one little thing, Monica. One little thing. I think we should be very careful not to come back to the argument, because our epistemology is about complexity and about circularity, and because of that, unfortunately, we cannot do that stupid research with that because, of course, we will never capture the complexity of one single family therapy session. We will never do it. But we can, of course, capture some aspects. And maybe we can do, for instance, mixed methods research and combine quantitative with qualitative research, and then we capture some little aspects of the complexities. And then I am, as a systemic researcher, absolutely happy. That's all. Yeah?
Alors, ce que dit Mathias, c'est ne revenons pas aux vieux arguments qui diraient que la complexité n'est pas approchable en termes de recherche parce qu'elle répond à des logiques circulaires. Effectivement, la seule chose que nous pouvons approcher, c'est l'un ou l'autre élément du processus thérapeutique ou de l'approche systémique, et qu'effectivement, chacun des éléments pris séparément peut faire l'objet d'un travail d'analyse. Donc la question est bien de savoir qu'est-ce que nous voulons observer.
Monica.
I think one of the issues that isn't mentioned, and I agree with all of what you've put up there, is the issue of students who are beginning to go through ethical approval from universities, where the systemic approaches in applied universities are much more understandable for ethical committees to approve. Whereas in some other universities, systemic approaches, the ethical approval takes much longer because they are much more concentrated on quantitative approaches than qualitative. So the issue in practitioner research in getting ethical approval through, particularly when you're working with clients, not past clients, current clients, all of those issues have become much more difficult because people are more protectionist around working with live clients and researching live clients.
Isn't the answer to that to do practitioner and clinical and research collaborations where you use practice-based evidence rather than necessarily just evidence-based practice? Where there's a sort of session-by-session constant feedback loop about whether or not we're getting somewhere, whether or not there's been improvement. Where you actually bring in the research element in a very active way into the therapy room. That way you're bringing the two areas together. I mean, I don't know whether there's any way of gradually building up this qualitative research, in such a way that it becomes quantitative, because we get so much information from the feedback we get in individual sessions. So that's really, I just wonder what your thoughts are about that.
Well, maybe I can, as I understand your comment, David, this is something what we try to bring in our second statement, because as I understood also from Bruce Wembold and other famous psychotherapy researchers, they are saying that the state of the art in psychotherapy research is no longer to look if behavior therapy, systemic therapy is effective and things like that, but really to do this client feedback things. Ask clients after each session about their experiences of the session, and say that this is what we have to do. And the question is, how can we communicate with systemic practitioners to make clear this is important to do it that way. And also what Monica says, of course, it's not only for ethic committees it's difficult to understand what practitioner research is about. It's for the scientific journals and so on and so on. There is of course still this mainstream thinking in research and the aspects that we would bring in. But I did 1 week ago, I did a keynote for multifamily therapy research, and I go into that topic because I wasn't in that issue very much, and then I found a lot of articles where they did qualitative research, 12 patients, making focus groups, and they published it in the Journal of Eating Disorders, very high. So it's possible to do qualitative research. I think you can do it. You can do it. It's possible, and also publish it in high impact factor journals. I was very surprised. Very low, 12 patients, 8 patients, a questionnaire, a little bit focus groups. That's it. Publishing it, describing very clearly and very systematically what you are doing, and it's fine for them. Yeah.
Ce que dit Mathias, pour traduire en français, c'est qu'effectivement, quand il a fait une recherche bibliographique sur les publications scientifiques sur l'approche systémique, il a trouvé beaucoup de choses en recherche qualitative. Et donc on peut penser aussi à partir d'un suivi de groupe de 12 patients. Et donc effectivement on peut penser dans l'approche systémique et dans la recherche, une recherche qualitative, et qu'il n'y a pas que la quantitative. Et la qualitative fait aussi l'objet de publications dans des revues internationales de très haut niveau. Et donc l'idée n'est pas de s'enfermer dans faire de la quantitative. Et il donnait aussi comme exemple, on peut demander à des patients à l'issue de chaque séance ce qu'ils pensent ou ce qu'ils ressentent de la séance qui vient de se dérouler, et ensuite travailler ça de façon qualitative.
I don't know who was, maybe, yes? Okay. So go ahead.
Si vous permettez, je commence en français et j'essaie de le traduire en français ensuite. Je start in the French. I try to translate it in English after. I have a little question pour qui on fait ces recherches, par qui c'est lu. J'ai pas de souci quand c'est lu par des systémiciens, mais je suis aussi responsable d'un centre de formation en systémie, et effectivement je constate parfois dans le parcours de la formation en systémie, les stagiaires passent par une pensée un petit peu mécanique de la systémie. Et effectivement, du coup, si effectivement les gens qui ne sont pas des systémiciens lisent ces recherches, donc je crains un petit peu que ce soit réduit, confondu avec des modèles un petit peu mécaniques. Et du coup, il faudrait rajouter un aspect vraiment une sorte de décodeur de lecture si nous souhaitons faire une recherche qualitative en système. Donc, I try to say it in English now. I have a little problem for the readers, not for the writers of the research, because not everybody is systemician. And there are a lot of people. I'm also responsible for a formation center in systemic training center. Yeah, thank you. And a lot of time, students have a certain mechanic view of systemic practice before they get real practitioners in systemic. Who reads our researchers for not to reduce them in a mechanic way? And I need research tools for be sure for this work. I hope it was
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Adolfo?
Yeah. I am not a researcher, I am a clinician, so I am very curious and I'm trying to understand how can I use it in my practice in my institute. And we have done some experiments before, and the preoccupation is on two levels. The first level is how much the instrument of research will influence therapy. And again, two levels. One is the fact, especially family therapy, or at least the model family therapy we use, that is very experiential and structural, is influenced by a structure which is squaring the procedure. No? Example. When we made the research on the attachment and family therapy, we are given the AAI, the adult attachment interview, to each member of the family, adult member of the family. And we noticed that then they were thinking and speaking with the structure of the AI, which was useful, by the way. It was good, but it changed the ways. Now I'm thinking of, for example, giving an interview, research interview, after the session to each session, for example, and I wonder what can happen, because this will change a lot the process. No? And the other point is, well, when we do a real research, for example, for me, to be used for me, I could use, I'm doing now the score with all the family which I come. I give the score to everybody in the first, before the first, after the fourth, and after the 10th session. And we have some result now. We start to have some result. But now I want to do a special way. I would like to know, because my kind of work is more on images and non-verbal. So I would like to know if my impression that images and non-verbal is better in some way, increase the results and make the rapid results compared to the verbal one. And to do that, I have to do, of course, two groups. To one, I will use, with one I will use the images, with the other one I will not. But I feel very,
it's an ethical dilemma.
It's an ethical dilemma. I feel very much in difficulty, and I will tell you, it's also personal, because in this moment I am doing a treatment for one illness that I had, and I am doing the treatment in a protocol, and I don't know if I am taking the placebo or the medicine, so I feel very well what is the difference. So I was asking to our colleague, what can we do to resolve or better, reduce the problem in this?
Thank you, Rodolfo. This is really systemic, because also research is an intervention.
Yes.
And there is no way out of that. So this is for sure. And so the only question is how to, or what you use, or how you use what you use, and how you research what you want to research. That is fitting to your epistemology, fitting to your ethical standpoint, etc. Because theoretically, you could do a control group. I mean, university clinics doing it that way. I mean, but you have a different attitude to that. Okay. So there's, I would say, there is no way out. Only reflection.
That's the way out.
At least a re-entry.
Yeah, but sometimes the control group should be the work that some other did in a different manner. Yes, that happens. Should happen sometimes.
Okay.
It was a suggestion that as the idea is maybe to bring more research in a training program, that these kinds of events of Congress where there are students and practitioners and different people, that to invite some people that are doing some qualitative research, even simple one, simple is not a bad word, to also that they explain how they did it and with what method they did it, and so that people say, oh, that's possible, and also bring more ideas about research in that case.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Lady from Greece.
I'm happy I'm with you after this long time from the last Congress in Athens. Well, Matthias, I'm actually from Greece, I'm Hanovre. And I was actually, Matthias, when you show us the distribution of professionals engaged in systemic practice, I was actually surprised at the low level of engagement of medical students and psychologists, because you said that social workers actually are higher. Okay, and I was wondering how on earth medical students and psychologists have such low level of awareness in systemic epistemology. I mean, where is the holistic model stance in their way of approaching, you know, mental health or health in general? I mean, not only mental health in general. I mean, how do you
I think it's a very, on this more complex question, I have a very simple answer. For Germany especially, it is simply because systemic therapy is not acknowledged by the health insurance, by the official health insurance. So psychologists that wants to become psychotherapists and also medical doctors that wants to work with psychotherapy approaches, they just they choose psychodynamic or behavioral approaches because it's not acknowledged in Germany, and because this is, we are fighting at the moment so hard that it gets acknowledged by the health insurance. That's I think that's because that's the answer why the distribution in the German association is that way. And it was not the distribution of the students, it was the distribution of the professionals that are members in the systemic association in Germany.
But I think it's another fact that the question is what kind of professional is in front of the family? Who works with the family directly? They are not the medical doctor because they don't have time to do that. Psychologists are generally in France with psychodynamic approach, so they just see in one patient and not the family. But the social workers work with all the family, so they have to train, and they follow after to train with the family. So I'm not, je suis pas surpris.
You're not surprised.
I'm not surprised with the results.
Yes, Nevena.
I just would like to share the experience that we had the opportunity to listen to Alan Carr in the Hanovre meeting, and he presented meta-analytic results. And we found the people who attended found that very useful, and we used the meta-analytic data in our training, and we also introduced that in some university courses, and I think this is what makes the change in perception of how systemic practice can be both effective and efficient. So I'd really like to appeal that we put our efforts, maybe as EFTA, and Peter has done a lot in this, so to proceed in meta-analytic results. Yes. Because that makes the change.
Yeah. Okay. So Thierry, are you happy, or do you think we should, your idea was that we should create something concrete to follow to the next conference, and also maybe to 2020, as you say today?
No, I'm very happy because you are here, and Mathias made the honor to be there.
I'm sorry, could you propose that we can start a chat about this topic?
I will go.
Thank
you. I propose for us that on the, if you go on the website of EFTA CIM, it's the possibility to create group about interest, question of interest. So I propose to you that we can create some groups with who will engage in, I don't know if it's with score, with scale of well-being after therapy, or other kind of qualitative research on what can I think about couple therapy or family therapy. And so we can try to do something who works. But with the website of EFTA CIM, it's a possibility to do that. So clearly, in the next week, I will create on the website clearly the opportunity to do some groups of members who want to think together.
Okay. So I think that's fine.
Should we do it also as Pratiques?
But it's for EFTA. But it's because we have the tool. I propose. My proposal is not because it's EFTA CIM. It's because we have the tool for all of us.
Yes.
Our website is following, and it's easier on our website to do that. So it's for everybody.
Okay, fine. So thank you for having invited us to come, and thank you for your attention and for the interesting points we discussed. And yes, see you next year or in 2 years again, maybe here in Toulouse during a research conference.
Thank you for coming.